In this lesson, we are going to add several charts to a Xamarin Forms view to stress test the actual chart, see what sort of frames per second we can get, and just to get a feel for how easy it is to add the Infragistic Xamarin Forms chart to a Xamarin Forms app. So you should have downloaded the XFPerf samples sample starter. We've used this before, and we're going to use this in a couple lessons. Let's go ahead and open up the stresstest.xaml page. We've already added our view models and views, and the whole point of this is just to get you going with the chart itself. In this sample, I've already added the namespace for the Xamarin Forms chart control. If you were using, which is recommended, the Infragistic Xamarin Forms toolbox, you would simply just drag the chart onto the view in the XAML editor, and it would add the namespace, it would add the chart, and literally you hit F5 and you're ready to run. So we want to get this done as quickly as possible. And you can do that with the category chart. What we've done with the category chart is actually taken the API of our data chart and made it much simpler. So you don't have to set a lot of properties to get going with this chart control. And we're going to use this in multiple lessons as we've mentioned before. So I'm going to go ahead and add the IG charts XAM category chart. You can see we have it up pretty quickly. Let's give this guy a name. We'll call this one chart 1. I'm going to add several charts to this view, and this one we'll just simply add chart. We'll call it chart 1. The whole point is to add limited properties. So just to get you going, we want to bind our data. And the one property that we do want to set is marker types. In this particular chart, the marker types are on by default, and it does kind of pollute the view of the chart. So we want to get rid of those just to make it look a little bit better. So we're going to add one chart, and then I'm going to add a label. And this label text is going to, again, be our binding, and it's going to be bound to our FPS text, which is our frames per second. And that's all we need there. So literally, we're ready to run here. I'm going to go ahead and let's make sure this is grid.row equals 1. And I'm going to go ahead and run this guy. So let's go ahead and hit our stress test button, and we'll see that our data is happily pumping through this chart. So in this example, we have 1,000 data points per series. We have 2 series in this chart. The nice thing about the category chart is it intelligently looks at our data and determines the best type of chart to actually render based on the data, which is why we didn't have to do any settings to get this going. So think about that. We have a multi-thousand data point chart, multiple series, pumping data in real time at, believe it or not, 43 frames per second on a mobile app. So this is purely incredible. So let's go ahead and stop this, and let's add a few more charts to actually stress this guy. And let's go ahead and add a couple more category charts. So I'm going to do another IG charts, do another XAM category chart. This guy will be chart 2, and his title will be chart 2. And what we'll want to do is incrementally add a couple more properties so you can actually see the difference in some of these property settings on the chart. So let's set this guy's binding to data 1. I've created multiple data sources here, and you can take a look at those in the actual view models. I'm going to set our marker types equal to none. And in this case, I'm going to set the y-axis extent equal to 40. And I'm going to set, and I'm going to set the x-axis extent equal to 40. Now what that's going to do is move the labels that go across the x and y axis 40 pixels from the edge of the chart. So it actually makes it look a little bit nicer. I'm going to set this guy to grid row 1. And that's what we'll do for this one. And let's add another chart. IG charts. Find the XAM category chart. One last chart. Give this guy a name of chart 3. And you get the idea here that it's pretty simple to go ahead. And by the way, the chart title Everything is basically optional except the item source. Obviously, you need some data, so the item source is going to be something that is required. And this path is going to be data 2. And just to make this super fast, I'm going to go ahead and copy these guys and we'll paste it in. So I've got my same thing, my marker types, my x-axis extent is 40, my y-axis extent is 40, and I'm going to add 2 additional properties. So I want my y-axis minimum value equal to 0 and my y-axis maximum value equal to 100. Now what this is going to do is, because the chart is trying to determine lots of different things based on the data on how to render, by adding more properties, we're making the chart do less work at runtime. So the less work it has to do at runtime, the happier the chart is, and the faster it'll actually render and perform for you. So we'll add this to grid row 3. So the more properties you add, the less work the chart intelligence has to do to render. So you're sort of forcing. There's other properties here, like let's say you have a data source. Like this data source is very convenient. We have 1 string and 2 numeric values in the collection. Let's say you had 3 strings and 5 numeric values. You could actually specifically include or exclude data fields based on what you want to show inside of your chart. So anyway, let's go ahead, and this looks all good to us. Let's run this again. So now we have 3 different charts on the page, and we are really stressing this out. A normal scenario for a mobile device might be 50 to 100 rows of data displayed in a chart. And here we're doing 6,000 data points in 3 different charts, pumping in real time. So let's click our stress test button. And here you'll notice a few of the differences in the charts. You'll notice chart 1 on the top, our y-axis labels are right up against the edge because we didn't set the y or the x-axis label extent. On the chart below, we have a nice 40 pixel buffer, but you'll also notice that the chart is dynamically allocating the y-axis values. And here we have on chart 3, 0 to 100, because we actually hard-coded that. And you'll see chart 2, it's changing, and now it's at 40 to 110. So based on how you want the chart to perform, how you want it to look, you can go ahead and set more and more properties on the chart to improve the view of it, improve the performance, etc. But this is pretty incredible right now. We're getting, this was just up past 25, almost 30. We're at 25 frames per second. This is thousands and thousands of data points pumping in real time on a mobile device. And if I rotate, you'll notice we have a smooth animation, and the charts really don't miss a beat. We're up past 30 frames per second, which of course was sort of the gold standard. Now we're at 38 frames per second. 30 frames per second on a web page is pretty impressive. And on a mobile device, it's very impressive. So think about that. You're getting this with real-time data in the chart. So there you go. In this example, we learned how to add the category chart and multiple category charts to a single view in a Xamarin Forms app to get a feel for how you can really stress the chart and get a high frames per second for whatever your data demands are.